This is not a story about the injustices of the system or a story about how unfair my life has been. It is simply a story about the reality 26% of us face in London daily. According to Nick Clegg and George Osborne, I am a scrounger, or whatever equally patronising and derogatory term they choose to use instead. I have been at the lowest range of the system for over 10 years. Sickness and lone parenthood have made me, in the government's eyes, part of the problem. Over the past few years, going from one listing to the other, I have noticed that most landlords are more open to accepting renters who own pets than people claiming benefits. A simple look on Spare Room would show you that out of 11,806 adverts for rooms to let, just 2% are open to people on benefits. It seems like no DSS is the new naked discrimination. Dogs have a higher appeal than a group of people. I have been a Band A applicant for a few years before a property finally opened up for me in Portobello Road. My years of moving from couch to couch in temporary accommodation were over. I would get a fresh beginning and the help I so desperately needed to try to jumpstart my life. Finally moving into flat number 14 in Aston House, it seemed like I finally caught a lucky break. I was getting used to the area. The big crowds during the Portobello market wouldn't even bother me. I really liked being between all those people. When I was in the market, there was no judgment, no looking down on me due to my condition. I was simply a nameless face in the crowd. A few years have passed, and most properties in my area, Portobello Court, are under threat. The local authority has told most of us that a new government deal is forcing them to regenerate the estate. In other words, an estate agency called Savills thinks that London streets need completing. Apparently, the greatest source of brownfield land is London's existing council estates. Now we are no longer just crown jewels. Instead, we should simply be disposed of. What they're claiming in this report is that the key to regeneration is the demolition of low-value assets. Non-viable properties can and should be disposed of in order to remove onerous liabilities. Properties that are deemed to have a poor economic and social performance should be replaced with properties that are fit for purpose. My question then becomes, whose purpose? And how will demolishing our homes be for our benefit? They then go on to add that the generous green spaces on our estates constitute a housing typology that is deeply inappropriate for current and coming decades. To comfort the masses, they propose that tenants get the right to return. At first glance, that sounds fair, but on a further inspection, you come to realize that only the ones with the financial means can actually return. The rental of the new properties will cost us an estimated double the cost of social rents. Leaseholders will also get a fair deal. Instead of owning their property entirely, they will get the rights to shared ownership. Perhaps most of them will lose their entire investment, as the value of the property will be 4 times the compensation money they will receive. Basically, the compensation will be on the current value of the property, not the newly developed one. So it's fair to assume that almost nobody on the demolished estate will afford to continue to live there after it gets regenerated. Zach Goldsmith's campaign famously promised more homes, better communities on our council estate. What they fail to understand is that a home and a house are 2 very distinct things. It takes us, the residents, to turn 4 walls into homes. And if these so-called homes are of supposed better quality, who are they built for? Certainly not for the residents with whom local authorities are in conflict. Walking around the Portobello Court estate, you can see families, elderly, teenagers, a community. What do the government and Savills see? Waste of space. At a rough estimate of 3 residents per household, Savills' report recommends the demolition of homes for over 400,000 Londoners just like me. So what will happen to us though? Well, when this radical cleansing happens, we will probably be forced out of London, our communities dispersed all around the outskirts of the capital. The regeneration model that claims to put local people at its heart is actually the one that will chase the locals away. Their words are not only empty, but at worst deliberately misleading. If the Greater London Authority genuinely wanted to empower residents, it would give residents the power to veto the plans to demolish their homes. This would require local authorities and housing associations to be bound by that veto. Our fates wouldn't be decided by men in suits who know nothing about our community, we would have a voice and a choice.